Hi guys, it's Sophie, and today I'm going to be doing the 25 bookish facts about me tag. I was tagged kindly by Amanda Centre. Thank you so much for tagging me. I'm really excited to do this one. I know it's taken me a while, it's a little bit late, but hopefully you guys don't mind. We've got a whole range of bookish facts, so we're gonna just jump in with some. I taught myself to read before I went to school. My mum sort of found me curled up, kind of figuring books out before I ought to have been. When I was a little girl, I used to be able to recite the first chapter of Artemis Fowl by heart. And when I was 4 years old, my mum took me to a library for the first time, and I was so excited that I wet myself when they had to make me leave. For every Christmas, for a while now, I have to go to sleep in a sleeping bag listening to an audiobook of Hoot, which is a children's story. I don't know how it happened, I don't know how that ritual came about, but that's my Christmas. When I was 18 years old, I gave away all of the books I owned bar 16, so all of the hundreds of books I have now I bought since I was 18. Bit mad. I managed to read all of the books in my primary school, and then I read all of the children's and YA books in my secondary school, and then I realised I couldn't read all of the adult books in the library, that I didn't have time before I'd finished school, and that was the moment I realised I couldn't read all the books that there were, and it sort of really dawned on me, and that was one of my saddest bookish moments. I've written 3 novels and 2 novellas, and as far as I'm aware, I don't think anyone's actually finished reading any of them. I spend about half of my disposable income every year on books and things related to books. The first thing I ever won in a competition was a Sheltie book, if any of you remember those. It's about like a little horse. I was so proud. I'd never won anything before and it was just really overwhelming. I remember it arrived and it was very precious to me for a while. Whilst I wasn't the only reader in my family growing up, I've always been the most voracious reader that I know. I'm a little bit of a monster because I have to underline stuff in my books. I just have to. I have red pens, and sometimes if I'm feeling really bad, you know, I'll write in the margins. I'll dog ear my pages. I'm a bad reader. I'm sorry guys. I have this red Filofax in which I keep all of my red books. So obviously I have Goodreads. I know a fair few of you guys follow me there, but this gives me a really nice visual representation date-wise of how many books I'm finishing. So you can see that that was quite a good sort of couple of weeks, but the week before was kind of blank, so it gives me like a visual description of my reading slumps, and I can try and find out if something's caused one, or if it's just sort of a cyclical sort of thing. Sicular, I don't know, what is that word? I can try and see if it's a recurring pattern, and if it is, then I just sort of accept it, but it's been fun. I'm enjoying doing it so far. The room that I film in most often, the room we're in now, is technically my library, and one of my main sort of caveats when I was looking to buy a house with my brother was that I was able to have a library. Yeah, so we're building it up slowly. Eventually this room will be full of books. Just one case so far. Not good. I have 2 books downstairs that I know for a fact I have stolen from friends, and I know that they're important books to those friends, but I refuse to give them back because I know that I have more books released out there in the world that are mine that someone has, and I just want mine back first. I feel like I retain some bargaining power by holding on to those books. I really like reading creepypastas. They're probably my guilty pleasure. So I know some people read, you know, curl up with a contemporary or whatever. I like reading really poorly written creepypastas. They always really scare me and they're really fun, and I just remember writing stuff like that when I was sort of starting out writing, and I love a good horror story. They're brilliant. When I was a little girl, I used to spend my whole weekend with the Animal Arc series. So I had about 100 of the books, and I used to have this box and take them all with me and then see how many I could read in a weekend, and I'd always try and read like 20 to 25 in a couple day period. I think I was kind of readathonining as a small girl. I still cry without any kind of like prompt or like bad event if I read the end of Noughts and Crosses by Mallory Blackman. The first time I read the end of that book I was completely and utterly inconsolable, and since then if I pick it up I just go straight back to that mental place, and I've not managed in all the time since I've read it, it's been like 10 years, to pick it up and not just sob at the end. speaking of like traumatic book stories, my mum had this big book of stories, I think they were called Tales of the Century, that she used to read to me when I was a little girl, and it went through like all these different stories from all these different places, lots of different authors, and was sort of a way of exploring the world, I think, and she sort of thought it was quite appropriate for children, and most of them were, so I was about 10 or so. But there was this one story about this woman who was a Native American who was running away from sort of the white people who just rocked up. And she could hear them coming, and she decides that she'd rather kill her baby and kill herself than she would have them see her. And I remember sitting with my mum at like 10, not understanding, and her just trying to explain it to me again and again and again, and when I got it, it just being like completely soul destroying. And my mum was we didn't read that book for a while. I think that and Man of Black Men and The Rats of Nim, like, they're my most traumatic childhood book memories. When I was at school, I got to meet Andrew Motion, so he was doing a poetry workshop with us, and we got to sit down and workshop, and I read a poem to him, and then afterwards he came and talked to me about Keats for like half an hour. It was one of the best half hours I've had in my life. On author stories, once I walked into Andy McNab, like I bumped into Andy McNab in my local bookshop. He was going to do a signing, everyone was looking, and he was about to sit down, and there's me. I didn't even buy his book, I didn't make up for it, I just saw a whole bookshop look at me like I was dirt and just went on with my day. I think a lot of people do this, but I thought it was worth saying anyway, because I really like doing it. But when I'm sort of listening to music, because I listen to music quite a lot when I read, I tend to pair my songs up with my books. But what I find is that I end up sort of really sticking one song to that book, and I'll just listen to it on repeat until the book ends. So my brother finds that he'll just hear one song for like a week, and then it'll suddenly switch to something completely different. I quite regularly go on book buying trips that are like days out for me. So I have bookshops here, I can just go to my local bookshop, but sometimes I like to look up the bookshops in another city, and then I'll get a train ticket and I'll go out and I'll spend the day there, just checking out their independents, seeing what their local Waterstones is laid out like, and I really like those days, and it's a bit sad because I'm paying like 60 quid just to get to more bookshops, but they're really lovely and I always enjoy it. So my final bookish fact is a little bit more of a serious one, but I truly and honestly believe that I would not be the same person that I am today if I didn't read. If I didn't read the way I do, if I hadn't decided sort of 3 years ago that I wanted to start reading really critically and start really looking at the media that I take in my life, I really think my life would be less, and I would enjoy it less, and I would understand less if I didn't have books. And I just love them, and I know you guys do too, and you get this, but there's not an awful lot of people in my life who get this. They're amazing, and I really truly think that I'm a better human because of the things that I read. Now, I'm fully aware that I've completely missed the boat on this, and that everyone's mother has done this tag already, so I'm not going to try and go through and tag someone who hasn't already been done, because I think it's going to be a bit challenging. But if any of you guys want to share any bookish facts about you in the comments, then I'd love to hear them. I always find these really fun and kind of personal too. So if you just want to chat, if you want to share some stuff, share some love, then the comments, that's what they're for. I hope that you're having a really lovely day, and that you have had a nice weekend, and that your next week looks good, and that everything is just positive and happy and wonderful for you at the moment. Even if it's not, I swear to God it's going to get better. I'll see you again soon. Bye bye.